Thank you and enjoy the performance.
this is a piece by the composer Larry Goes called Borneo Rivers 2. And Larry takes as his inspiration some vast meandering rivers that are on the south coast of Borneo. And he was looking at different maps of these rivers and thinking about, as you kind of zoom in on a river, how it immediately starts to become more and more complex. And he sort of imitates this process a little bit in this clarinet piece. So we start with this super fast, kind of jaunty melody in the clarinet, and then as the piece progresses, it slows down more and more, just as we're kind of zooming in on this river. And through that, we sort of reveal all of these kind of fragilities, and he brings these out as different sort of multiphonics in the clarinet part. And this piece was a commission through Scott McLaughlin's Garden of 14 Paths project, and I'm going to play a piece by Scott next, but first I'm going to invite him up onto the stage to tell you a little bit about the project and about his piece, Fringing. Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, very briefly, some of the things that the project tries to do is to look at the clarinet from another perspective, to try and push against ideas of reproducibility, and especially the idea of multiphonics, and this one fingering here produces these pitches like a chord, and instead thinking of multiphonics or as any possible fingering on the clarinet as a space of emergent possibilities, a space of resonances, some of which want to occur more than others, that the clarinettist can explore, that the Garden of Forking Paths, that every fingering is a set of spaces that can be emergently explored by the player. So in this piece, what you'll hear a little bit more of is a lot of recursivity, a lot of Heather playing over the same groups of fingerings, but trying to bring out different things, or locking into what wants to emerge from it. And the title comes from a lovely quote from Joe Pansner's book on John Cage, The Process That Makes the World, where he says, he's talking about Cage, and he talks about an undercurrent of difference fringing our world of apparently stable and reproducible objects. And it's that focusing in on the fringe, the things that want to emerge from things, that this piece and the project tries to do. And a massive thank you to Heather, who was absolutely vital during the whole project. Thank you very much.
Just to say though, has anyone not heard clarinet multiphonics before, or woodwind multiphonics before? Right. Okay. So I'm making multiple sounds at the same time with the instrument through like combination of what I'm doing here and what I'm doing with my face. That's more or less what's happening. The first time we did this concert, there was a review that said she's doing some sort of electronic trickery, and no. I'm not using any electronics. I'm in this amazing space full of speakers and I'm not using them. So, well, except to speak to you now. So, I hope you enjoy Scott's piece, Fringing. you. So the next piece that I'll play for you is by a composer called Amber Priestley. This is her piece K581, but not quite his way. So the piece sort of reflects two things that were going on in the composer's life when she was asked to write this piece. The first is that she had just started going back to her first instrument, which was the violin, and she started playing a lot of the repertoire that she was learning when she was a teenager. So a lot of Mozart. So K581 is the clarinet quintet from 1789, and that piece is obviously a big part of my instrument's repertoire as well. So you're going to hear little fragments of Mozart kind of creeping out of the piece. She also, at the same time, found herself sort of giving up on the CD as a medium, as her CD player was falling apart, and started to kind of glitch and skip and repeat things as CD players do when that starts to happen. And a typical composer, instead of replacing the machine or getting rid of it, she just started to really enjoy all of the glitches. So she sent me loads of recordings that her CD player was making of from Portishead's Third. So you're going to hear little bits of transcription from the glitched versions of that album as well. She combines strictly notated music, which is mostly where the bits of Mozart come in, along with a lot of graphic notation. So there's a little bit of graphic notation reading, a little bit of improvisation, and a little bit of Portishead in there as well. It's quite a lot going on. So I hope you enjoy Amber Priestley's K581, but not quite his way. So the next piece I'm going to play for you is quite a recent text score by a composer, improviser, trumpet player called Craig Peterson, who's from Canada. And I started working on this text score project with him in 2021. He got a really nice grant from the Canada Council for the Arts to write, to work with, I think it's 6 or 8 different musicians all over the world, and it's a kind of mix of sound art people, improvisers, and new music people. And the idea was that every 6 to 8 weeks, he'd write a new text score. We'd make a recording at home, a kind of classic COVID project, and send it back to him, and then he would kind of develop his practice from there. So it's still going on now, kind of a year and a half later. And one of the things that I noticed was because the text scores are quite minimal in their instruction, and we were doing them every 2 months, they started to reflect for me kind of what was going on in my life or in my house when I was making the recording. So they became a lot bigger than just sort of the text score. So the one that I'm going to play for you today is called January 24th, 2023, Autumnal. Obviously it's a very recent one, so I just finished the recording for this, and while I was making the recording I was already thinking about this concert and getting out the Garden of Forking Paths stuff again, and so that really had a big influence on my recording and what I did there. So I thought we had to include it. And the other reason I really wanted to include it is, so I'm also from Canada, and Craig and I have known each other since we were 15. We met in Mrs. Simpson's grade 11 English class, and we've been friends since then. But this is the first time I ever played a piece of his, because he's kind of come to compose, like more formal composing a little bit later in life, I guess. And so yeah, this is the first time I'm going to play one of his pieces, so it's quite exciting. I think he's in Australia right now and has stayed up late just to watch us, so hi Craig. And I hope you enjoy his lovely text score. January 24th, 2023, Autumnal. I've just got one more piece to play for you today. This piece is by a Colombian composer called Rodolfo Acosta. I think he's also got up quite early to watch us today, and he's sitting in his house drinking a cup of coffee, so hi Rodolfo. And the piece is called De nuevo seremos uno en esta tierra sol respirante. We will again become one in this sun-breathing earth. I apologize for my Spanish. So Rodolfo sent me this piece many years ago, before I met him. But in September, so I got a duo with a German accordionist called Eva Zonner. We played here, I think, in 2017. But yeah, last September we were invited to Bogota to work with some young composers there and play a concert in a festival. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to learn Rodolfo's piece, because I always really liked the look of it, and it seemed like the right moment as part of my kind of investigation of the Colombian new music scene. And it's come for me to represent a lot of my experience there and what I learned about the music scene and the composers that I met there. So I come from Victoria, BC, which isn't quite geographically isolated part of the world. It's like 4 hours just to get to Vancouver, and then, you know, this kind of thing. But one of the things that I didn't appreciate until after I left Victoria is what that meant for the new music scene there. It meant we had a really like concentrated group of people who really worked hard to like make anything happen, and we all participated in each other's pieces, and there was just this really amazing community feel. And Bogota was much the same. I mean, it's geographically isolated. You're on the top of the mountains there, which, by the way, is very complicated for clarinet playing. It just took me days to get used to it, and it's so much easier to play Rodolfo's piece at sea level. A lot of long breaths. Anyway, and so I just loved it, because the composers that we met there, they were super hardworking and just wanted to make anything happen. So even though the culture in Colombia is quite different from what I grew up with in Canada, I had this weird kind of like homesick feeling to just experience this amazing community there. So Rodolfo's piece, he's super meticulous in his notation. Like every accent, every dynamic is there for a reason. So working with him meant going really deep into all the details. And it was, for me, it made like the extreme nature of a tour all the way to South America worth it, to get to meet him and to work with him, because I think the piece is just so much better for that kind of really deep work with a composer. He asked me to do some movements in the piece, so you're going to see me moving the clarinet around a little bit, and I think this accomplishes two nice things. So we get a little bit of a kind of spatialization, so hopefully you'll hear the sound moving around the room a little bit. And I think it also lends a really nice, very basic, simple theatrical element to the piece, which does nothing more. Well, you can disagree with me afterwards, but I think it does nothing more than create different spaces for the different kinds of material that he has. So I hope you enjoy this piece by Rodolfo Acosta, and thank you very much for coming to the concert today, and enjoy the rest of your day.